Okay, so welcome back to, I think it's like episode 55 of the Fortnite Mythbusters. So I understand I've been making a lot of these Mythbuster videos, but I mean, it's because of you guys. You guys are the ones keeping it alive with all of your awesome unique myths that I read literally all day long. Just like always though, before we get into the video, make sure to hit the like button. Can we try and aim for 15,000 likes on today's episode? That would be insane. We didn't really hit our goal on the last video, so 15,000, I think we could hit this. Come on, guys. Also, if you do have a myth you would like me to test in the next or future episodes, go down in the comments below and drop a comment of a unique myth, and it will have a pretty good chance of being featured because I read them a lot. Today's video was brought to you guys by GT Arcade. GT Arcade is one of the best gaming platforms, which includes games such as Legacy of Discord, Rangers of Oblivion, and League of Angels, plus many more. These games are featured by both Google Play and Facebook and are all available on the GT Arcade platform. Make sure to download GT Arcade with the download link in the description below. People who download using this link will be entered for a chance to win a $10 welcome package. Make sure to go check out GT Arcade and start experiencing the best gaming platform today. Anyways guys, without further ado, let's hop right on into today's episode. Going straight into the first myth. The first myth is, if you place a turret in the middle of the Slipstream and sit in it, will the Slipstream pull you, or will you just kind of sit inside of the turret and be able to shoot? Now, I never really saw this myth in the comments at all. I only saw about 1 or 2 comments requesting this one, and that's what I really like. This is an actually pretty unique myth that you could use in game if it does work out. When I was testing this out, I was in my own custom matchmaking server and I found a turret and headed straight over to the Slipstream. From there, if you don't know already, you're able to build in the Slipstreams. I remember a couple patches ago you were able to, but if you haven't played since then, you are now able to build in the middle of the Slipstreams. I then placed down a platform and the turret basically in dead center of the Slipstream. Now at first I got really close to the Slipstream and I honestly didn't think you were able to sit in the turret, but after getting a little bit closer and spamming my E button to get in it, I was surprisingly able to sit in the turret in the dead center of the Slipstream and basically shoot anything that flies my way. I even tested it out by jumping out of the turret and basically flew straight up to it, and if you are lucky and you don't hit the bottom platform, you are able to get in the turret, but if you do go beneath it or even hit the platform or the floor that it's on, the turret will fall, and it's kind of a rip from there. Going into the next myth is, if you cannonball through a Slipstream, will you still be in the cannonball form once you go through it? Now, I mean, the cannon hype has really died down since Season 9 has came and Season 8 is basically gone, so I don't really see too many people taking advantage of the cannonballs anymore. Now, when testing this out, I was in creative mode. I did a glitch to get back to the spawn island, and I basically went up to the Slipstream, got in the cannon myself, launched myself into the dead center of the Slipstream, and surprisingly, it kind of ruined the whole motion and just pulled me into Slipstream. I didn't go through it. I got out of the cannonball form. It was just as if I was jumping into it like regular. I mean, you could technically use this in game. I don't really see the advantage to it, maybe just to get to the Slipstream a little bit quicker, or you might get lucky landing in it, but something pretty cool, something I didn't know, and hopefully you guys learned something new as well. Going straight into the next myth. The next myth is, what happens when you throw a storm flip in game when the storm hasn't formed yet? Now, I'm not gonna lie, this myth is actually pretty obvious, but a lot of people thumbs up this, so I may as well just show you guys. In game, when you do throw a storm flip right before the storm actually forms, so really early game, it basically just creates a storm, the same storm bubble. Nothing changed. Just because the storm hasn't been formed yet or like started to close in, it doesn't change this at all. Hopefully that cleared up a few things for you guys that may have been wondering about that. The next myth is, what happens when you throw a storm flip into another storm flip? Now, to do this, I had to use a little technique to get some storm flips into creative mode, because if you don't know already, when you pause and you go through all of the presets, there's no storm flip for you to just spawn right away, so you have to use a different tactic to get these. Anyways, in creative mode, I had unlimited storm flips, and I gave myself basically a full inventory of them. From there, I threw down a storm flip, then shortly after, I threw another one in relatively the exact same spot as before. Now, sadly, what we were all thinking is that maybe you throw down a storm flip and the storm comes, but you throw down another one inside and it'll kind of cancel it out and just become just like regular. But sadly, that's not the case. Whenever you throw a storm flip into another storm flip, it just kind of overlaps each other. The damage does not change at all. The damage take is the exact same as regular. and it's basically nothing changes. So I mean, if you do end up having to, don't waste both of them at the exact same time if you want to use them effectively. The next myth is, will you take damage if a supply drone lands on you? Ever since these little supply drones have really been added into the game, I've been flooded with this myth, and it's about time I answer it for you guys. Now, of course, it's actually really difficult to get a supply drone to basically land on top of you because they move relatively pretty fast, and the crate drops extremely quick as well, so you have to be perfect timing underneath it and break it just about at the perfect time. Now, when I tested this out, there wasn't that much of a distance between the crate falling and it hitting me, but it was enough that you'd think I would take a little bit of damage, but sadly the supply drone doesn't really do anything at all. When the crate does hit the ground, it just kind of explodes like regular, and whatever loot is in it just kind of flops out. This definitely would make for some pretty insane kills though. If one of these supply crates were to land on top of you and it instantly kills you, imagine the possibilities that you could do. Across the map snipes, killing people with this, it goes on. Similar to the previous myth, the next myth is, do stink bombs damage the supply drone? If you think about it, this is actually a pretty good myth because stink bombs damage opponents as well as yourself, so you'd think they would damage the supply drone as well. Surprisingly, when I tested this out in game, I threw a stink bomb and the drone went basically straight through it, and it didn't really seem to affect it at all. The drone just kept going through it, took no damage. It didn't break at all. It still took 2 hits to kind of drop the drone and have the crate fall. So this is a bummer, but I really don't see the point in this anyways. I mean, if you were to throw a stink bomb at a supply drone, it would be way quicker to just shoot it out of the sky, you'd think. Unless you have a pickaxe, I guess it's reasonable, but still, it doesn't really make much sense to use this in-game. The next myth is, can a spike trap deal damage to a supply drone? Now, this is actually a myth that I'm extremely curious about, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are, because the spike trap with a supply drone, you'd think it would maybe deal damage to it and drop it, because of course it's your trap. The drone is kind of like an enemy, you'd think. When I tested this, I kind of boxed in the supply drone and put some spike traps on the wall, and sadly the spike trap basically ignored it. The drone just kept bouncing back and forth to the wall. I ended up breaking it and the supply drone just kind of flew out, but sadly the spike traps don't really do anything. I believe the only way you're able to knock down these supply drones is with either a gun or even your pickaxe. Any traps or grenades or that sort of stuff won't really deal damage to it, so your best bet if you do see one of these is to just shoot it out of the sky. The next myth is, if you throw a storm flip on a platform in the sky, will the storm reach the ground? Now currently, if you throw a storm flip on the ground, it's not a complete square. It doesn't go all the way up to the sky. It's basically just a sphere, just kind of sitting there, and it's just a storm in a ball basically. Now when I built up the giant platform and I jumped off and threw the storm flip, pulled out my redeploy, you can notice that it's very similar to the stink bomb. It's a massive sphere in the sky, and it really doesn't deal any damage to you if you're outside of it, of course. If you are in the circle or the sphere, it will, of course, you'll be in the storm, you'll be taking damage. If you're below it, outside of it, you won't take any. If you're above it or just not even in the boundaries at all, you're basically good, and you might just want to wait till the timer is over and it goes back into itself. Going into the last and final myth, this myth is, what happens when the storm flip is half in and half out of the zone? Now of course, when I tested this out in game, I was in my own custom matchmaking server, so everything was the exact same as if it was a regular match, and I threw the storm flip at the very edge of the first zone that closed in. Now when I threw down the storm flip and I went inside of the sphere, of course if you are in the storm and you go in the storm flip, it's actually safe. There's no storm, it actually flips the storm. But of course if you go into the safe zone and you go into the storm flip, the storm's going to be there and you're going to be taking a lot of damage. I actually think it's really cool that the devs actually took time to make it actually happen like this. The physics are really well with this grenade after all. Anyways guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe if you are new to the channel. If you haven't already, make sure to go check out the sponsor of today's video, GT Arcade, down in the description below. If you do download it using that link, you will of course be entered for a chance to win a $10 welcome package, which is awesome. Make sure to drop a comment down below of a unique myth for a pretty good chance to have it featured, and I will see you guys next time.